In this episode, I sit down with Marc Hernandez out of Beverly Hills, and we unpack breaking into the luxury market, selling your buyer's offer to the listing agent, branding, and networking. As always, I'm your host and San Francisco connection, Sean Conkler. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate you being here.
Hey, Sean, thanks for being on my show. I mean, it's nice to be on your show.
Way to hijack it.
I know we're going to have a lot of fun here today. So again, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate you reaching out and inquiring, and here we are. It's funny, we had a brief conversation prior to this, and I asked you what your superpower is, and I would say it's tenacity. I feel like I've watched some content about you. I've obviously got to know you, but I feel like you just go after it, which I really appreciate that quality.
Thank you so much. I think you're absolutely right. I have to credit my mother for that tenacity. My mother would never take no for an answer. And I mean that in a good way. I'm thinking back to a time when I was a little kid. My sister and my mom and my dad was working. I think she wanted to take us to dinner. He was working late that night or something. And we rolled up to this restaurant at, let's call it 7:55. And the hostess came out like right to the front door. She said, "We're closed." And my mom looks at her watch. She says, "But it's 7:55. And she's like, "No, but we're closed. We're closed. We want to make sure we get everybody out of here or whatnot." And that's when my mom's tenacity kicked in. She starts with this whole story, right? It's like, "But wait a minute. We drove 30 minutes from from home. It was only 5. 30 minutes from home to get here. And all of our friends say this is the best restaurant. They love your food and your service. Come on in." Right? So it's like, to this day, there are times when, whether it's regarding, points in a transaction or it's getting into an open house, I always just get that foot in the door and then I don't let off until I get in a nice way, right? You can't be a jerk about it, but I just keep pushing because I know that no means maybe.
The next time I want to get into Mr. Chow's, I'm going to give you a call when I'm down in your area, which is impossible to get in. You just have to know the right people.
We'll get it done.
So there's two pieces about this. You have an incredible amount of success with getting your buyers accepted into contract. But the other thing that I think people are going to glaze over is you have a 95% success rate. Now, the part most people are going to glaze over is not the percentage, but that you actually know your numbers. And I tip my hat for agents who run their business like a business, and knowing your numbers like that, it's crucial. It's crucial.
What most people in this business don't realize is that they're entrepreneurs, that they're CEOs of a business, right? And many people come into it like, they're a salesperson, right? And they're, just transactional, but they're not thinking it as far as, being the CEO, being the COO, being the CFO of what they're doing, right? Having reporting and metrics. If you don't know your metrics and what you're doing, how do you get to the next level, right? So you have to track and measure everything. So yeah, I agree. It's important to know your business. And by the way, when I say 95%, that's probably on the conservative side. I think it's probably approaching like closer to 97% now, but I just always, just to be safe, say 95.
When there's multiple offers coming in and you're out of Beverly Hills, it's not, to give context to people listening into other markets, competitive in some markets are 1 or 2, or I should say 2 or 3. In highly competitive, we're talking sometimes in the teens, and then to stand out within that pack, that's incredibly hard. But what's the secret? What's your secret sauce?
My secret sauce is that I have an entire process, right, for winning multiple offers. And I've learned this. I think I learned this kind of on my own, but then when I was starting in the business, I thought, I've got to pitch my client to get this property better than the rest of the crowd, right? And then as I went on and started taking on listings and start seeing how buyers agents were approaching me, it underscored what I was doing right. And then it highlighted what I could be even doing better. Right. And so one of the things I noticed is the lack of engagement that buyers have with listing agents. It was just shocking. Right. So I'd receive an email with an offer on a listing of mine, and it would say, "Hi, Mark, attached, please find my client's offer. Please let me know if you have any questions." And that was it. That was the offer letter. That was the submission letter, as I call it. I didn't know this agent from Adam, and they hadn't even called me. And I'm like, I have no stake in this agent at all. No reason to root for them or their client. Nada. Right. So, I started developing my process with getting to know the listing agent. First of all, you going back to networking, it's important to network, right? So I go to broker open houses. I go to Sunday open houses. If I don't know an agent, it's a great opportunity to meet them, put them in my CRM, and now I've got a new contact. I want them to know me. I want to know them. But literally, when we were ready to make a run on a property, my clients and I would go to the broker open house or the Sunday open house or both. And I'd spend 20 minutes with the agent. And as people would come in, I'd say, go do your thing. Right. And they'd go, and I'd go out in the backyard and, make a call or whatever. And then I'd look inside, and all of a sudden the coast is clear. No one's there. Go right back to that agent. I'd like to spend 20, 30 minutes with them. I once had a buyer that we were writing on a property where the listing agent was an Asian gentleman. And he didn't have very strong command of the English language. And so I knew it might be difficult. So I sent him an email one day, knowing that we were going to write very soon. And I said, "Let me come out to your office and have a cup of coffee with you." And he wrote back. He goes, "Where are you located?" I'm like, "Beverly Hills." He was out in Pasadena. And he agreed to it. And I literally took 45 minutes out of my day to go out and sit down. I went in there. I was like, we went in the conference room, like styrofoam cup of coffee kind of thing. We sat there, we talked, told a few stories or whatever. And it made the difference because I knew that I had to get to him because I was I could have been competing with other agents in his market that may have been a little bit closer to his language, right? So I needed to make sure I worked a little bit harder, and we ended up getting the deal. But anyway, it's getting to know the listing agent quickly and as deeply as possible. It's multi-touch throughout the process. So it's contacting them, finding out as much about the property. It's going to see them at the property. It's following up with a thank you letter for meeting you at your property at the open house. It's not obnoxious, but it's kind of, I'm into music, so it's got to be the right kind of cadence all the way through.
Absolutely.
It's writing an amazing pitch letter, right? So my letters that go out to listing agents, you'd think I was applying to Princeton, the first paragraph is about, my clients and why they like the house. The second paragraph is about the lender I'm working with and how I've done a number of transactions with that lender. Hopefully, most of the time that's the case. And how they, will get things done. And then the third paragraph is how I want to be collaborative with you as the listing agent. Anything you need. I don't care if it's Friday night, 10 o'clock. I need to drive out to see you to hand deliver something to you. Not highly likely, but I will do those kinds of things. Whatever it takes, we're in this together. We have the same mutual objective. And so I want you to be able to count on me. I want you to be able to count on my lender. I want you to know that we are putting the right buyer in front of you for the right property at the right price and terms. And then I also orchestrate the lender to not only wait an hour or so and then respond to my email with why the buyer is, qualified. They have the right FICO scores, low DTI. They provide all their information quickly, highly communicative, all of that. But then also, in addition to that, make a phone call like an hour or two later. Want to make sure you got my letter. Just want to introduce myself. I then ask my transaction coordinator to do the same thing, right? So it's like, hi, my name is Rochelle, and I'm going to be the transaction coordinator. I'll make sure all the documents are, signed and executed and blah, blah, blah. And so we're having an organic, 360 holistic team approach, as opposed to just sending this attached, please find my buyer's offer. And they know that we've got our shit together, really, right? We've got a team. We're organized. We're communicative. We're friendly. We bring humor into it. I never like anything to be too stiff. So whenever I tell agents on my team this as well, the first 5 minutes of a call should have nothing to do with real estate. So many agents, I think, get on the call. Hey, Sean, I just want to call about that listing, blah, 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 as opposed to, hey, Sean, how's your day going? Right? And you go, oh man, maybe it was a tough day. Well, really, what happened? Oh, well, I lost a multiple offer and da-da-da. Oh, well, how'd that happen? And then we go, next thing you know, we're talking for 15 minutes. I'm asking you questions. I'm being empathetic to you. And you're going, hey, that Marc guy, he's okay. I want to work with him. Right? As opposed to, hey, let's just get right into the deal. That's just not, to me, nothing's more of a turn off than that. That's like, that's like trying to get together with someone without going on a date and buying a drink. Right. So it's like, you gotta dance a little bit.
Yeah. And I like how you draw it into music and dancing, and there is a rhythm, there's a cadence to it. And, it's not any one of those components. It's all of them working in harmony together to build a relationship, to give the confidence to the listing agent that, hey, if you get in, if we go under contract, I'll take care of it. We're going to close this thing. And that's, I agree with you. And I feel that a lot of, especially newer buyers, agents who haven't been on the list side, they don't realize how crucially important it is to sell your offer, your client's offer, and sell them, because what's going to happen is that agent then has to sell that to their clients, and some of it's going to get lost in translation. But the way you made that agent feel, that's going to get translated over very quickly.
Absolutely. If you think about it, on the listing side, you're selling a property and an experience. And on the buyer side, you're basically selling a buyer, and you have to be able to point out the features and the benefits of that product, right? Just like you would point out the features and the benefits of the house. So I think it's really important to know those things and to do those things, especially in this market with such a hyper shortage of inventory, and multiple offers are everywhere. So it's crucial, I think.
Very similar to you. I really studied and figured out how to write good offers and how to get them accepted. And then once I had a few listings and I was on the receiving side, I was blown away. I was blown away by what the amazing agents were doing, vastly different from the rest. And the rest is a big spectrum. And as simple as, in San Francisco, we have a San Francisco contract. As simple as the listing agent saying, can you please submit it on a SFAR contract? And doing that, it's crazy. It's baffling how many people don't even just use the right contract. Here are a few things that we need you to follow. And they can't even do a simple instructions. It's baffling to me.
It's baffling how many people are just kind of incompetent in what they do in this business, and they're not using the right contract, or they don't understand the contract. They can't explain the contract. So what value is there? And I think, now more than ever, showing our value as real estate agents is very, very important.
When everything's flowing and, when there's like virtually a 0% mortgage rate, you don't have to work so hard selling yourself, because you literally are at that point. But now you have to refine your strategies and really work a little bit harder and smarter. So I definitely appreciate you sharing the nuances of getting that offer to the finish line.
And if I could add the second part of that is being able to, write a really kind of surgical, like tight offer that really makes the the listing agent and the seller know that you're going to get it done better than the next offer. And I always tell my buyers that at the end of the day, what a seller and a listing agent want, they're looking for two things. They're looking for speed and certainty. So how can we write an offer that addresses the speed issue, like getting it done faster and quicker than the next offer? And that means, tightening contingency dates and close of escrow dates, working with your lender to make sure that you can deliver on those. And then also certainty that, you make them feel that your client really wants this property, and that they're not just there to just go kick the tires around and say, yeah, not mine. I don't want it. Right. I'm out. Cancel.
Yeah, that's the worst. And I've been on the listing side where they write a few offers. They're trying to figure out which property they want. They tie up a few of them and then they back out. And that's like the absolute worst scenario to unfold.
On that note, I think it's important to talk to your buyers. I'm talking to the agents, not to you. I think it's important for us to talk to our buyers and make sure that they really want to go through this process on that particular property, right? And because look, we don't have to make a run at this one. We can keep looking, and once they can convince me that that's what it's their dream home, their ideal home, then I feel confident that I can really go to bat for them and do everything I need to do to get the property for them. But because I don't want to build up a reputation either as being kind of like, the agent that always writes the offers and cancels. And I'm not, but I would never want that. So I think there's a lot of agents out there, Sean, that they'll just write any offer without talking. They're like yes men, right? Or yes women. They're just like, okay, let's write. But it's like, well, let's talk about the house, the pros, the cons. Do you see yourself living there for 1 year, 3 years, 10 years? Would you hold it and lease it later on? Would you sell it to get into your next thing? And when you go through all those conversations with people, you really then, address how much they want the house and how much they need the house. And then everything else can fall into place.
I completely agree. In really vetting the buyer and really helping them understand. And then there's the other strategies that we can do to coach them along from, instead of getting pre-approved, let's actually get underwritten. And here's how that's going to strengthen your offer in the next phase and really put them in the right position. But it also, I find it puts them in the right mindset, to your point, is they get more and more committed in understanding that once we put pen to paper, we're committing to this thing. And it, like me, its reputation is paramount, because if you have a good reputation in the agent community, when you're putting in offers and you are known for successfully closing either on time or early, or you've worked with that agent in the past, it is way easier of a conversation, and you're going to get way further faster in that. And I know from talking to you prior to this, your network is your gold mine. And that's multi-layered. We have networks within our agent community. We have them on a national level. We have them within the Compass brokerage. We have them with our potential and future clients. There's so many layers to that. So that is a very broad area, but how do you approach your networking?
You're making me think of I think something I heard by a coach, it may have been Tom Ferry, but it's, they say your network is your net worth, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's our sphere of influence. It's our agent connections. It's, the new buzzword now is no longer calling them your past clients, calling them your clients, right? Because they're still your clients, right? Why do we have to think of them as past clients? Like they're all your clients. I've always been kind of a social animal. I go through the world wanting to know everybody. I want to know everybody. I'm like fanatical about it. My wife laughs at me because we just got into a new school for our son, Lennon. He's just started 7th grade. Plugged to Campbell Hall. Campbell Hall is a great school here in Studio City. And I literally will go to all these events and orientations and back to school nights and whatnot. And I've been doing this thing in personal situations and professional. Everyone I meet, I make sure that when I get done with the conversation, hey, Sean, nice talking to you. Turn around, walk the other direction. I've got my phone in my hand, already queued up to Apple Notes. I write down your full name, where the guy with glasses, whatever, something that takes me back. And then I take that information, and then later on I'll follow up with finding you on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, and reach out, connect there. Sean, it was nice meeting you. And so it's very important that I know everybody, and equally important is I want everybody to know me. So I'm big on, my dad always told me I was a good promoter and maybe a good self-promoter. But I'm not shy about that, right? I want, before I got in this business, when I got in the entertainment business, I was quoted in the LA Times. There was an article that they did that I was in. And I said, it's not just who you know, because that's what everybody says. It's who you know. No, but it's also who you ensure knows you. You have to be on their map as well, right? So I'm, as I said, fanatical about it. I'm constantly networking with people at Compass retreats, at Tom Ferry events, at Compass Impact Days, here in the Beverly Hills office for events. I'll go into other markets and other offices. I fly up to San Francisco or go down to Orange County or San Diego, and I'll join their sales meetings and say a quick hello to people, because I want everyone to know me, and I want to know everybody as well. And look, you don't just want, in my opinion, you don't just want one referral partner in each town. You want a good handful of them, because who may align with me may not align with you. We're talking clients, right? And vice versa. So, they may want someone with a different vibe. So I want to make sure that I have as many tight conversations in each office, in each market, so that when someone comes to me and they need someone, I can go, yeah, Sean would be a good fit. I think Sean would be a good fit. And this other person would be a good fit. So I'll give them two, but they'll work with, both of them will align, as opposed to giving one person that may not be a good fit, and then it just starts off on the wrong foot. You don't want that.
Yes. I mean, I 100% I'm on the same page with you on that. Is you really want to match your client to that right person, because that is an extension of your reputation, and nothing worse than your client coming back and being like, we had to fire them. They were just an asshole. And you're like, oh my God. Or them not even telling you and just picking somebody else and then never working with you either.
Right. Not to oversimplify it, but it's kind of like it's matchmaking, right? I think there are agencies out there. Aren't there agencies out there that are like, if you're a single person and you want to meet someone for dating and a relationship and who knows, maybe marriage, there are agencies that they take all your information. Match.com is a great example of that, right? They get all your information and they know who to align you with. And that's so important. And their business model is based on putting together the right fit. And so it's the same thing when referring Compass agents, right? You want to make sure it's absolutely the right fit, because I've heard of stories where they weren't, and it comes back and kind of explodes in the face of the referring agent.
Within that, it's really helpful from a branding perspective. Like you, for example, have a very clear brand. Here's the clients I work with, and here's by saying here's who I work with exclusively, or the majority of, it excludes the other places or property types or whatnot. So if I have a client who has a higher net worth, they have celebrity status. I know celebrity status has very specific, different tailored needs, and they're looking in Beverly Hills. I have a layer of confidence that the personality fit, Marc, you're going to be the good fit. I'm going to give you a call, versus a wild card of, hey, this person doesn't really work in this market perfectly. They don't really cater to this price point, and they've never worked with a celebrity. And so there's too many wild cards, and it's aside from not being a good fit, it may not be a good experience for your client, who, I get it, they're not under contract, but you still have a fiduciary to them. You want to make sure they're being serviced properly.
That's correct. I agree.
And it's tricky. I mean, I think, and this goes on a different tangent, but within the social media and within your networking, it's really identifying with, who are you who are you as an agent? Who do you want to work with in terms of client profiles? And what's that persona you're putting out there? Because that's ultimately what you're attracting back.
The way I look at it, Sean, is there are plenty of clients to go around. And, just as much as like taking an open house, for example, when you're hosting an open house and people are coming into the open house, I think a lot of agents want to work with everybody that comes through the open house because they're leads, right? But it's just like they're vetting you sitting in the open house. I think it's important for us to vet the client because some clients are going to be dreams to work with. Others, not so much. And we've all had our share of difficult clients, right? So, you want to make sure that the person, at least I want to make sure that the person that I would represent has, similar, positive energy, and they're nice and they're respectable and they're kind, and they're the kind of people that I would want to introduce to family or have dinner with. And I think that's really important, right? As opposed to just taking anybody. I think we have to be strategic on who we take on as clients.
So open houses were how I really catapulted my career. And I feel like I always say I got lucky, but I worked really hard. And my first transaction in San Francisco was for 2.6, and it was from a person I met at an open, and it really set the trajectory. And I was of that mindset early on. To your point, Mark, is I tried to collect everybody, and I'm like, I can work with everybody. And then I had a few really horrible clients, and I was like, I don't want to work with everybody. So what I would still do is my hack was I would collect their name and number and essentially say, hey, I have a colleague who I think you're going to absolutely love. I'd love to make that connection. And I would refer them out. Even in my own backyard, I would refer them out because I was like, I don't want to work with this person, but they're going to buy a house. I might as well just get a small piece of that pie.
That's brilliant. I love that.
Saved my sanity, tenfold.
I love that.
It's hard to feel like you're giving away or giving up business.
It's hard in your first year too, right? Because until you do that first transaction that you need to get up there on the leaderboard, right? You want to take anything. You want to make sure you get a sale.
Those first few months, man, it's brutal. If you were able to rewind, and I know you've had a high level of success, you came from a great industry prior to, which you were able to leverage into this. But if you were to start over, rewind 7 years and have a new day one, what would you actually do differently?
Maybe more advertising, maybe more video, which I'm working on now, maybe building a team sooner. I was an agent for 2 years at a former brokerage and solo agent. I came to Compass, solo agent for about a year. So that's 3 years in the business before I started building a team. And I think I would have done that sooner.
Who was your first hire for the team?
So I was working with a transaction coordinator that was making kind of the market rate for being a transaction coordinator. And I ended up wanting her to be more of a TC and an assistant. So I basically doubled her fee per contract and said, okay, so in addition to just doing, some of these TC oriented things, I'd like you to do some operational things, some document filing for me, some, things like that. So she really became a TC / assistant. And it made sense. I mean, so big whoop, I make a, 5-figure commission check. And instead of, paying, $350 or whatever, I'm paying $7, it's no skin off my back, and it got me a lot more support.
That's a really smart way. I have not heard of somebody doing it or approaching it that way, but that is actually really smart. And you're right. It's not proportionally, it's a nominal amount of money for what we're receiving in on the transactions, and not for nothing, but they're only getting paid when you're getting paid. So it's kind of, it's definitely a win-win. And I know you're obviously heavily in the luxury sector, which most people always want to get into. And as well, you've earned credentials for the sports and entertainment sector, which is kudos, because there's only a few people who are actually in that category at Compass. What piece of advice would you give somebody wanting to break into the luxury sector?
Do things that are luxury. And what I mean by that is you have to, it's all based on demographics, right? I mean, people that buy luxury watches or luxury cars or go to luxury hotels tend to fly in the same, what do you call it? Run in the same circles. Run, fly, whatever. You run in circles, right?
They do fly the same private airlines for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, private jet. Do luxury open houses if you don't have a listing, right? Go to luxury events like find, if you have to drive half an hour into the city, or if you're in the suburbs, go, find out when the next big art gallery opening, exhibit is going to be. Join the art museum. Pay the, $500 a year or whatever to be a member of the museum. And then you get invited to the events and the wine and cheese parties and things where they're talking about an artist or whatnot. Go to, one of the things I did was to find out what the luxury magazines are in your market. Down here in Los Angeles, some of the magazine brands that come to mind are like Modern Luxury, and they own LA Confidential, and I think LA Confidential is still around, and Angelino. And these are high-end luxury branded magazines that advertise to luxury advertisers. So what I would do is I'd open I'd open the magazine, or you could do it digitally as well. Look at the masthead, which is where they say who the publisher is, the editor in chief. You go through all of the, art director, all that. You get to the bottom, or near the bottom. I shouldn't say the bottom. Anyway, near the bottom, and there's the advertising department and the names of those advertising executives. So then find out, and many times their phone number and their email is right there. One of the first things I did as a new agent, didn't have a single transaction under my belt. I emailed those executives and I said, I'm not interested in advertising right now, but I plan to advertise, shortly. But in the meantime, I'd like to get together with you, take you to coffee, hear about your rate card, hear about your, subscription base, who we could reach and all of that. And they always take the meeting, right? And next thing you know, you make a friend of that person, you connect with them here and there, and then they're sending you invites to the magazine parties that they're throwing for their advertisers, and maybe they're, doing something with, Louis Vuitton, right? And they're having a Louis Vuitton party, and you're going to have a lot of luxury, influenced people at a party like that. And you go to those parties and you have a drink and you talk to people, and next thing you know, you're exchanging information and you're finding clients.
That is brilliant.
Yeah, it's just finding the watering holes, the open houses, the events, the art museums in the area. Also, networking with other luxury agents that are even bigger and better than you are. Even if you're just a beginner, right? If you haven't done any deals, find out who's accessible. They won't all be accessible based on who they are and production level and whatnot, but find people that want to help other people, that want to collaborate, and then find kind of a mentor base and what do they call it? Mastermind, right? With some agents that want to help you break into luxury.
It's brilliant, and it's true, and not to overly simplify it, but like seeks like, and you're right. If you're hanging out at luxury events, it's typically people who live at that lifestyle, live at that level. And that, not for nothing, that person that I met who bought a 2.6 house, I found an agent in my office who was luxury, and she had a whole bunch of properties. Usually she's in the 6 to 13 mil range. And the property that she had that wasn't selling, was on for like 20 something days, was, if I remember correctly, it was about 2.5 million. And I knew she didn't have time to also host the open houses. So I literally was like, I will take it from here on out until it sells. I'm happy to do it. But I knew, to your point, people who are coming to look at $2.5 million houses are shopping for $2.5 million houses.
That's right.
You're teed up to meet these people. And so it wasn't luck. There was like this whole like back end strategy to it. But I thank you for sharing that, because you've even reminded me to get back into the art scene post COVID. I've lost some of this for sure.
When I first started in the business, I would find out who has the listings that didn't have a big team to fall back on. And then I would send them an email, just kind of like I sent you an email, and say, to get together. And I say, I'd like to know more about you, and let me take you to coffee. I'd like to, hear about your business and how I can possibly help and even be an extension of your team, right? I didn't want to be on a team. Some people wanted to be on a team. I wanted to eventually have my own team. But in the meantime, I offered to be an extension of theirs. And I think that's, and the second part of that is, I remember a story where this agent wanted to she didn't know me. We had talked, I think, on the phone once after I reached out. And, she had this, I think it was a $2.5 million house in the Outpost Estates. And she was doing the Sunday open houses. And I know that sometimes before you get to prime time, right, you have to be on a network show or right before you can be the anchor, you've got to be the reporter out in like Omaha, right? You've got to go from outward, you got to go in.
You have to build trust.
You have to build trust. So that's exactly what it did. I reached out to her and said, let me just do your broker opens for you.
No one wants to do the broker opens.
I look at it a different way. I'm getting in with her. I'm showing her how I work, how I report back. Meeting agents in the meantime, not a bad thing. And then before you know it, she was like, here, take Sunday. I can't do Sunday.
That's how it evolved for me. And so very similarly, yeah, I mean, I step back. I'm like, where are buyers hanging out? Open houses. I'm like, I'm just going to do that. And then strategically, what are the ones that I want to do? But same thing. I would approach it to build the trust with the agent is I'll take any open house, meaning even the broker's open, I'm more than happy to host. Or I would email them and say, hey, I'd love the open house. I'd meet them as you do in person and then say, hey, if you want extra marketing, I'm happy to host a Twilight on Thursday. Happy to do this, happy to do that. And then once they take you up on it, what my formula was, I would text them when I got there early and I would say, hey, just got here, turning on all the lights. Looking forward to a great open. And then as soon as I locked up, I would say, hey, just locking up now. I'm going to send you a summary at the end of this. By the way, the light was out in the kitchen, so I ran to the hardware store and already replaced it for you. I'll send a report later tonight. And then you send this really robust, here's who came by, here's the contact information, here are the agents, here are their clients' names. So I would put so much work into that report that they can literally forward it to their client and look like an amazing star. And then to your point, once I had that relationship, I had this show in Omaha. Shortly thereafter, this agent was like, here's the Excel spreadsheet to the entire calendar. Just put in your name on all the ones you want to host. And I would just have the pick of the litter at that point. And that's how I was able to carve my name in a very short period.
It's also what I was saying with the buyer presentation for multiple offers. What you're doing is very similar. It's high touch with frequency that's ongoing. And as a result, the person receiving those updates feels comfortable because you're paying attention, as opposed to the person that just says, I'm done, out, right? And they haven't put any time into creating the report or letting them know that they've just turned on the lights or locked up at the end. All those little touches create, comfort, right? And it's even though I may have just talked to you about your listing and we're going to write an offer, and I say, yeah, we'll probably be coming in with an offer. What's today? Friday. We're going to probably be coming in with an offer on Sunday in time for your deadline. And you say, okay, that sounds good. Tomorrow on Saturday, maybe halfway through the day, I'll send you a text just out of the blue. Hey, I just wanted to let you know, I was just talking with my clients and they couldn't stop talking about how much they love this house. I just wanted you to know. Again, just a little touch in that kind of cadence, right? Keeping it going. Didn't say anything that would be like pushy or obnoxious, but I'm giving you some good news that you go, oh, that's great to hear. And then, right? So it's all those little, it's like calculus, right? You put all those little like line dots together and you've got a curve, right? So it's kind of also goes with that 1% rule, right? Little movements over time are going to get you there than just having a big gap in between like showing and presenting the offer.
And being on the receiving side, being the listing agent, you, by doing these little things, you're telling me that your clients are committed without you ever saying my clients are committed. And when I receive that, I feel like out of all the offers, I will say to my clients, these guys are really committed. Their agent has reached out X amount of times. They've stopped by the property X amount of times. They've put together a really good package. Of course, you have the choice of which offer to go with, but this is the context behind it. Whereas this one just arrived. I don't remember either the agent or the buyer. So I have no context to share with you there. And it's missing X, Y, and Z. It's immediately they're different immediately without even actually going into the nitty gritty of the contracts. So I love that. I really, if nothing else, I've taken away your attention to detail, Marc, and it's impressive, and it's clearly what your clients are. I don't want to say always paying for because it's indirect when the buyer or seller, but it's what they're paying for and it's what they're receiving, and it's that high quality of touch that's putting you in that 95 percentile, which is impressive.
I think you and I have very similar styles, and probably why this conversation is so comfortable between the two of us. I mean, I think we've been in the business about the same amount of time. We have some similar philosophies on how to serve the client and how to put their best foot forward, so to speak, and how we approach engaging with others and communicating with others. And I think those things are all part of the job description that for success, that is.
It's all those little things that when they all come together perfectly, like that's the music. That's the essence of it all. Well, Marc, we're at time.
Oh my God, is it that? How long has that been?
We have been recording, believe it or not, for 45 minutes.
Wow, it doesn't seem like it at all.
That's the sign of a good conversation. So I appreciate you for that.
Well, hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate this, and it's been a lot of fun. And let's keep in touch.
Awesome, Marc. Thank you.